So we all know the modes of the major scale. They're the most common ones that we hear about. They're the most common ones that we tend to use. Things like Dorian, Lydian, Aeolian or natural minor, and even weirder ones like Phrygian or Locrian. They have tons of different usages. We see them all the time. But let's think about really quickly, what is a mode of the major scale? Sometimes we think of it as starting the major scale from any different point in that scale. Well, when we put it that way, why can't we just start any scale from any point within itself? Wouldn't that also be a mode of that particular scale? Well, you're absolutely right, and that's what we're gonna go over a little bit of today. So first things first, let's take a look at what I would probably call the next most common usage of modes. Those are the modes of the melodic minor scale. Really quickly, let's review what a melodic minor scale is. Let's take a major scale. If we change one single note about that scale to make it minor, what note is that going to be? Well, we take our third, which gives us that major sound in the key of C major, and we make it flat. And that gives us a minor sound in the key of C major. Well, now let's just play the scale again, only instead of playing the major third, let's go ahead and play the minor third. That is the melodic minor scale. Now, here's where things get interesting with modes. Just the same way that the major scale has modes starting on every degree of it, so does the minor scale. Let's take a look at what they are and what they sound like. As with all scales, first and foremost, we have the root mode, the scale itself. Which in this case, well, that's just the melodic minor scale. But things get really interesting the second we start to play the different modes of this scale. Let's play the melodic minor scale starting from the second degree. So the second degree of the melodic minor scale is D. Now we're gonna play the same notes that we did in the root position, all normal except for an E flat, but we're just gonna start it from D. That's gonna sound like this. Really interesting sound. We call this Dorian flat 2, and it's basically exactly what it sounds like. It is the Dorian mode, which is the second mode of the major scale, only we have a flat 2 within that. Now, if we back it up one step further and remind ourselves how we create a Dorian scale, we'll remember that we build our modes based on the variations from the major scale, which is kind of what we base most of music on. Well, if we started this scale on D, let's just play a D major scale. First, let's find Dorian. And if you remember from previous videos, or if you've happened to have taken the modes course over on the Cornell Music Academy, you'll remember that Dorian is composed with a flat 3 and a flat 7. So let's go back to our major scale. We're gonna make a flat 3, so 1, 2, 3, make that flat. 4, 5, 6, 7, make that flat, right? So we wind up with... Okay, so there's Dorian, and then we said that the second mode of the melodic minor scale is Dorian with a flat 2. Let's take that same scale again, and go to our 2. 1, 2, make it flat. There's our E flat that exists in our melodic minor scale in the key of C. Dorian flat 2. That's how we arrive at all of those fancy names and complicated formulas. It's not that complicated, it's just a lot of steps to keep track of. Like, we start at the major scale, make some alterations, arrive at a mode, make more alterations, arrive at a mode of the melodic minor scale. This is gonna be a theme that we see come up again and again as we talk about the modes of the melodic minor scale. Dorian flat 2 has a really cool sound. It sounds like this. It definitely feels minor, but it also has this like little twinge of mystery to it. Super cool scale. Let's move on. Third mode of the melodic minor scale. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Same notes as the root melodic minor scale, but starting on the third. This one's really cool. We call this Lydian augmented. Okay, so once again, we have our Lydian scale, which is derived from our major scale by adding a sharp 4. In addition to starting from that Lydian mode, now we're going to augment it. And for those of you who are not familiar, augmented usually just means a sharp 5. So now we have a sharp 4 from the Lydian scale and a sharp 5. This one's really cool. It has a very mysterious sound. Check this out. That's a super cool sound. Moving on, we have the fourth mode of the melodic minor scale. That is going to be another variation on Lydian. So the fourth degree of that melodic minor scale starts on F. All right, so let's make F Lydian. Remember, Lydian is sharp 4. There's our sharp 4. Once we add our note from the melodic minor scale, which if we remember, is E flat. So let's change out the E that's normally in F Lydian, and let's change that out for an E flat. There we go. We call this one Lydian dominant. Lydian dominant. Remember, our dominant is our flat 7. So we basically just mush those together and call it one scale, Lydian dominant. This scale is a lot more commonly used than people sometimes remember, because if I play a dominant chord with a sharp 11, which is the same as a 4, right? Sharp 4, sharp 11, same note. The scale that's gonna go with that is Lydian dominant. It just makes the most sense, right? If I'm playing, we might expect to hear that as part of a 2-5-1. So for example, perfect fit over that dominant 7th with a sharp 11 chord, which we see so often used in jazz in particular, but also across many different genres. Another one that might sound a little bit familiar is the 5th mode of the melodic minor scale, which of course starts from G. So once again, let's take those notes of that base melodic minor scale and just start them from G. This again has a pretty simple name. It's just kind of mushed together with like the mode of the major scale that we started with and how we changed it to make it a mode of the minor scale. So we start with Mixolydian. And how did we make it minor? Well, the only thing we changed in the melodic minor scale is moving that E to an E flat. So let's add that in to our Mixolydian scale. And there we have the 5th mode of the melodic minor scale, which we call Mixolydian flat 6. It sounds complicated, right? If I just spat that out in conversation like,
oh yeah, it's Mixolydian flat 6, you'll get it, you'll hear it, don't worry about it.
Dude, but it's what? We're just taking the mode of the major scale that we started with and literally saying what we changed about it to make it a mode of the melodic minor scale. So Mixolydian flat 6, and it might sound a little bit familiar because it kind of sounds like this. Very mysterious, very dreamy, and it makes really great usage of, check this out, the minor 4 chord, right? Because if we're thinking about this all in G, then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, C minor built on that. All the notes between those two chords are within the Mixolydian flat 6 scale. Such a beautiful scale. Moving on to our 6th mode of the melodic minor scale, we have Aeolian flat 5. So it's Aeolian, but with a flat 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's make that flat. That one's a real interesting one. It sounds kind of... because we're lacking the 5th. We got rid of that, and that's obviously a very strong sort of bass point, but we got rid of that, and now we have a tritone as our sort of make, so we can't even like go, because there's no 5th. There's only... very unsettled sound, a little bit mysterious, but kind of in a dark way, because we're dealing with a minor chord at the, at the very basis of it. But then we have this, which makes it even weirder. Tell me if you know any usages or popular, areas where Aeolian flat 5 is used, because I can't think of a ton. It's not a very familiar sounding scale. It's pretty strange. Not as strange as the 7th mode of the melodic minor scale, which weirdly, it's actually used more than you would think, and I'll explain. Let's take a look at that 7th mode. This seventh mode of the melodic minor scale is often referred to as the altered scale, or sometimes Superlocrian. What an awesome name for a scale that is, Superlocrian. As we know, the seventh mode of the major scale is Locrian. And we know that that consists of a flat 2, flat 3, flat 5, flat 6, and flat 7, which is a lot of alterations. But we have to make another alteration to make this fit into the melodic minor scale, and that is making our E an E flat. So now we have a flat 2, flat 3, flat 4, flat 5, flat 6, flat 7, and I'm back to a 1. It's a very strange combination of notes. But the seventh mode of the melodic minor scale is actually a very commonly used scale over a dominant chord. And part of the reason for that is it actually contains our dominant seventh shell. It contains the 1, the major third, and the flat 7. Now, why do we not necessarily call it just a third? Why did we say it was kind of a flat fourth? Well, because we also have C and D, which would realistically be the flat 2 and the flat 3. But then we also have the regular natural 3, the major third, and then a flat 5, flat 6, flat 7. There's a lot of flats. This is a super cool scale to use over a dominant chord because we kind of outline, we have the dominant shell like we said, but we also have the sharp 9 and the flat 9. We have a sharp 11, we have a flat 13. So this was really like playing a B7, flat 9, sharp 11, flat 13, all of the alterations, just every single one, all the alterations. In context, here's what that would sound like. Let's do a 2-5-1, where the 5 is gonna land on our B, right? So that would make it... Wow, out of context, that sounds so different, but that's basically what we're doing. Okay, so we're doing a 2-5-1 into E. So let's make some alterations here. Now, this is just a regular B7 with a ninth, just a regular dominant chord, right? Well, let's start throwing in all these alterations. So let's start with just the flat 9. Well, you can almost hear a really nice inner voice movement there. Ba-da. It's kind of a nice little chromatic resolution there. But we don't have just a flat 9, we also have a sharp 9. Whoa, now things are getting a little weird. When we hear it like that, it kind of makes sense. Sharp 9, flat 9, resolve. We've kind of heard that sound before. But we gotta keep going because we also have a sharp 11. Woo! Now we're starting to get into the weeds. That's actually a really, really sick chord. That sounds awesome. And if I were to play that in context, I might like shift some of the voices. So I'd land there and then maybe move from it. So like... something, I don't know, something like that. But we're not done, because not only do we have a sharp 11, we have a flat 13 as well, right? So let's get that in there. Now, you probably wouldn't voice it like this specifically. I mean, you could, for sure. There's no reason you can't. That flat 13 gives a pretty nice resolution to the E major, because we have ba-da, ba-da, ba-da. That's pretty nice. I like that sound. So we have flat 9, sharp 11, flat 13. And when we just throw it all into a scale, we get that seventh mode of the melodic minor scale, aka our altered scale, aka Superlocrian. What a crazy combination of sounds and color tones. Like, you could just do so much with that. There is this whole other bank of incredible sounds that we just don't really think about all that often. Play around with them a little bit, see what kind of sounds you can build from them, and see if you can recognize the usages of any of these modes in some of your favorite music. Now, these modes are a little bit complicated, but if you just want to figure out the modes of the major scale, how to use them and understand them, we actually have a course all about that on the Cornell Music Academy. It's our Making Sense of Modes course, and it's available now for 30% off using code MUSICTHEORY30 at checkout. There's a link down in the description below, and that link will actually take you to our Intro to Piano course, which if you're just starting out, that's the place to start. You can find links to both of those courses as well as our Intro to Improv course, and many other things are on the way very soon. Once again, 30% off using code MUSICTHEORY30, link in the description. Be sure to check that out. It's the best way you can support the channel, and I'm super appreciative to all of you. And I will see you in the next video.